Hello and g'day. Today's video is about book page pockets. It's a basic need for your junk journals. I promise these are easy to make. I'm going to show you two styles, one using a sewing machine and one without. So let's get started. Alrighty, we'll make the sewn up one first. So I've got a few book pages here. I've also got some of the discoloured pages out of an Edith Holden book. So I'll show you two styles. So these are made out of a hand-bound book. So if you've got one of them machines that punch the holes in like this, you can just get a piece of pretty paper or anything you like and just punch these holes in and, you know, make up your own style pocket. You don't have to just use pages that you've taken out of a book. Just create your own pages if you like. All I've done is I've got one of the pages and there's my flat page and I've folded it in half. Now I'm going to fold it just a bit shorter to the trim because I want to use that as a feature. Now this one here I've left plain and I've used a white straight stitch. You can use a colour straight you can use a colour straight stitch or you can use a zigzag. Now I'm going to distressing this one. Now's the time to punch it before we close it all up. We're going to put a thumb hole in it, and you can make this thumb hole as small, as big as you like. I'm using a 1 1/4 inch, and I'll colour that as well. We've got two pockets. We've got a top pocket and we've got a side pocket. So that's my thumb hole for the top pocket, and you can put a round hole there or you can put an oval in the side one here. Because it's a bit narrower, I'm going to use the oval. So if I was to just say I'm going to stitch just below the text there, the name of the plant, I'll work out about where my halfway is, which is roughly there. And I'll punch a hole for my thumb to go right there. Colour that as well. Now here, if you're any good at freehanding, you can just freehand here. Now I'm going to do this in a black stitch, so I'm just going to put a very, very light pencil line across there so I know where to stitch. I'm also going to stitch up here as well. So this is just for you so you can see. I'm going to stitch across there and I'm going to stitch up there. And I'm also going to stitch across the bottom because I need to close this up so that I've got two pockets. So when I stitch there and there, that gives me my top pocket, and when I stitch there, because that's already stitched there, I've got a side pocket. That's how easy that one is to make. So I'll duck across to the sewing machine and I'll be back in a minute. Now I'll show you a little tip what you can do with your threads. If you want your threads to be showy, and because I've used this dark thread, you might say, well, I want my threads to be left on here. You would pull them through to the front. If you want them to be cut off, you would pull them through to the back. Now, instead of just getting them here and tying those two in a knot, turn your work over, get this one at the back and see how that loop is forming there. When you pull that, you just grab that loop and pull it through to the back. And then you can just tie that off and it becomes nice and neat and tidy. And that stitch at the front will lay very flat and you will not see where you tied it. So tie a double knot, and then that can be trimmed right off reasonably close to the knot. Now see there, it's a very neat finish. This one here, and you do the same if you wanted it at the front. It's just say if you wanted to leave your threads exposed, you would pull this one and pull that loop to the front like that, tie your knot, and then cut your threads with a tail around about there so it turns into a decorative tail for your stitches. But I'm going to pull it back through that way, grab that loop, pull that there, lay my work down on the table. It's much easier. Tie my first knot and then tie a second knot. Cut that off pretty close to there. Grab a tag, put that in the top pocket. Another one there. I told you they were really, really easy page pockets to make. You can put that in your book and you just tuck that into a tuck spot. So there it is in the lighter stitch and the darker stitch. No distress ink and distress ink. This method here, pretty much the same, only we're going to use our skinny tape. I might use that one. Actually, I'll use this one. It's already folded and it's good to go. So just fold it over. I'll distress ink the sides again. Now this one here, I'm just going to work out where I'm going to put my line across here before I put my thumb hole there. So I think I'll mark that. I'm just going to square this off here. I've got my Copic multi-liner and I'm just going to put a fake stitch. I'm going to start my stitch line here. See there, I've come away from the edge. I've put my first stitch line there. I'm squaring my ruler up to the edge. I'm going to put another stitch line there. And now I'm going to virtually join the dots. Do lots of little hand-drawn stitch lines across my pocket. And that way you can, you can control how many lines you put. And if you wanted to go up the page, you would do the same. One at the top, one at the bottom, so you know they're going to meet in the right place. Just hand draw in your stitch lines and just make them a little longer or shorter. Because it's hand drawn, it doesn't really matter whether they're longer or shorter. Just adds that, handmade look. Stitch there, and then join them up. Okay, so that's pretty much where we're going to put our tape as well. So I've got a thinner tape. It's about 1/8 of an inch, this one. It's a good tape, this one, because it's strong and you'll be able to see where I place it. So I'm going to place it here. I'm going to use my stitch line that I can just barely see through the page. And I'm putting it on the shorter side of the pocket, on the top side. Then I'm going to put it down this stitch line because that's going to close off my pocket. And then I'll put another row of tape across the bottom. And that will give me my side pocket. So now I've got that stitch line marked, I can put my thumb hole in there. I'll be using the oval when I find it. So I'll pop that in here. you can measure or you can just eyeball it and colour that up. Yeah, it's looking good. I'm right on track. When I close this down, I'm going to push it in the middle, then up the side, then across the bottom. So, you know, like, it looks okay to me. Like, we got the sewn version and the non-sewn version. Pocket at the top and a pocket at the side. Now I'll make one out of this book page just to show you the difference, just using a smaller book page and one that hasn't got these holes punched in it originally. Right, so I've just used a hole punch that I've got myself. I've just put this in here. I folded it over so I knew where I wanted these holes to be. They are on a different angle. These ones are running up and down. These ones are running side to side. And this one here, I've made this punch just decorative. Same would apply. You just sew down there and across there, or sew all the way down and just make a basic pocket. Whichever way you wanted to do it, it would work. So I'll just make these up off camera. You don't need to see me repeat the same steps on a different style of paper, and I'll come back and show you how these ones turn out. So what I've done here is I've just stitched at the bottom, up the side. I've got a long skinny pocket there, and I've stitched across the bottom there, which gives me a tiny, tiny little skinny pocket at the bottom. This one I've done in the zigzag. I've left a bit of the thread there to show you what I was talking about earlier. Long skinny pocket. These are perfect to put in the tuck spots. This one here is just a scalloped edge with the fake stitches. So you don't have to have a sewing machine to make these particular pockets work. When you sit them side by side and put them in your book, you wouldn't even know that that was not really stitched. Maybe my crooked drawing might be a bit of a giveaway, but other than that, you wouldn't know. So these are definitely an easy pocket to make. Paper pockets, stitched or glued, perfect to put into your journals. You can hand fussy cut some edges if you don't have any punches. Use your book making punch to do this method here. Fold them in half, glue them or stitch them, and pop them in your book. These are too white for you. Put some distress ink on them and get them looking a little bit older. Get some nice colouring into that white paper. Blend it in. Because when you put something like that in it, it's just too white. It doesn't work. There you go. I'm Donna. Thanks for watching, and bye for now.